Hey, girlfriend, this is Laura, host of Unhooked, and I am so happy to have you here today, especially because if you are sick and tired of what no longer fits you from this perspective of the shoulds, the obligations, things, people, stuff, and the bras, like really, like bras don't always fit well either because we're always ready to take them off, right? So we are here today to get unhooked, and we are getting unhooked with Julie O'Connell. Julie, how are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for asking.
I'm so excited to have Julie with us today because I'm on a streak of having dancers on my show, and she's a pretty fabulous one herself. So I'm excited to have you here and learn a little bit about Julie. And boy, she has things to tell us about her life because, girls, this girlfriend of mine, she has been around. And if there is a theme song for her, it's the I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. Yes, this is her theme song, 100%. So, so let's have you all learn a little bit about Julie. All right, let's learn about Julie because, like I said, she has an amazing background and dance. I'm going to be known for having dancers on my show because most people know that, okay, I'm not the professional that you are, but I'm an amateur ballroomer for over 15 years, which that's how Julie and I met. I'll tell you about that. Anyway, Julie O'Connell has been a performer and choreographer for more than 5 decades. She has traveled the globe performing with princess cruises, teaching master classes, and choreographing numerous TV shows and musicals. Her favorite credits include the Los Angeles Company of Kin Street and films Penny from Penny and Break-In 2, Electric Boogaloo. Oh my God, I remember the first Break-In.
Yeah.
I had the cassette tape of the
I
original.
probably I had the 8-track before that, so
Oh,
I get
God.
it.
I'm telling you. And I'm pretty sure I saw Breakin' 2 also. But she has taught well-known actors and entertainers. Okay, get this, everybody, including Drew Barrymore, Christina Applegate, and Katie Holmes. Oh my gosh. Julie has a tremendous ability to inspire performers and bring out their unique best. Her students have gone on to enjoy much success, which, yeah, because we know all those rock star gals that I just mentioned. Not only has she trained those rock stars, but she has a rock star of her own in the family. Julie's daughter, Kelly Sheehan, was the youngest cast member in the Broadway revival of Kin Street and starred annually in the national tour of Irving Berlin's White Christmas. She is currently performing in the national tour of Some Like It Hot. Julie is an avid golfer. She enjoys yoga, photography, and writing. She recently added author to her list of credits, her memoir, Winging It Every Step of the Way. And it's also available on Amazon. And I have it right here, and I cannot wait to talk about it. Julie, I mean,
Yes.
I can't keep up. I mean,
Oh,
seriously. Amazing, amazing book. We're going to talk about Julie's book. So, Julie, I mean, we met, I don't know, it's like 15 years ago, I think, when I started ballroom,
I
and you
would
were here
bet,
in
yeah.
Chicago observing a friend of yours
Yes.
who was competing.
Yes.
And we met kind of on the sidelines. We were observing, we were
Yeah.
spectators. Yeah.
Right, right. I know, we just hit it off right away, and luckily, one good thing about social media is we've just kept in contact over these years, and, I've even lived in Chicago on and off since I met you, and, I still can't believe we hadn't connected in person, but I think we're gonna make a change on that
I
sooner than
would
later.
hope so. I would hope so. Julie has just done so many tremendous things, and like I said, I would love to be known for the podcast that has these amazing international dancers and choreographers on the show. And as you see in the back, so for those of you who are listening, I have a little sign behind me that says "Dance, Just Dance."
Yes.
All for you, but it's certainly my inspiration uh, as well. But Julie, I want to talk with you about so many things, your career, your pivots, the highs, the lows, and certainly as we ladies get older in life and things tend to bubble up as maybe more important or less important. Um, tell me what you're doing now. Where are you now? And, based on your book, you have had all kinds of pivots with
Oh,
relationships and where you've lived and so many things.
yes.
So let's hear from you and all these things you've done.
All right, gosh, yeah. Well, currently, I guess to work backwards, I'm living in Perrysburg, Ohio, which is right a suburb of Toledo, which is where I'm from. I can't believe things have come back around and I'm right back where I started from. But I'm enjoying it. It's a very slow pace and I'm used to big cities, but it sort of affords me to travel. I have a sister in Chicago. I have my daughter's in New York City. She's always on tour. I can get to her and see her shows wherever. I taught dance here for years. My mother taught dance here. We just know everybody in town. So that's fun. I still dabble. I teach a little bit. I choreograph for a couple of high schools and community theaters around town. And then I still guest teach here and there. I was just down in Sarasota this winter for a month and had a few guest classes there. It was great because my daughter was on tour coming through, so I got to see her. So I stay busy and I'm always looking for new creative projects. So that's about what I'm up to right now.
I've seen your pictures on the golf course, and yeah, I'm a big hack. Like
Oh,
there's I barely make contact with the ball, but I do like it. I do like the whole golf thing. I guess maybe I like the idea of golf more than actually playing golf, but like there's nothing you can't do, Julie. But was there ever a time that dance wasn't on the table for you?
not really. We kind of talked about relationships. My life sort of took a downward spiral in one relationship that lingered for years. That was the only time. He was a big golfer
Oh,
and I was living in Florida back and forth like a snowbird. So I didn't have a lot of consistency in my life as to being one place and I kind of lost track of some of my contacts. So I taught maybe a couple of workshops here and there, but that was the only time for several months that I wasn't teaching and I just didn't feel like myself. I mean, I'm a dancer. I was born dancing. My mom was in a show when she was pregnant with me in June and I was born in July.
oh,
So I
what?
mean, I was born dancing. So yeah, it's just who I am and what I do. So that was a little bit of a downturn there, but like I said, it was pretty short lived. I got right back to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your other theme song is "Baby, I Was Born This Way."
Born to dance, exactly.
Born to dance. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, in the book, you talk a lot about like the relationships that were kind of the highs and the lows of the relationship, and in a lot of ways the sense that I got is some of those relationships maybe hindered you in some ways, or at least attempted to with your dancing and teaching and whatnot. And, we do hear a lot of that from women, unfortunately, who feel stuck, which is a lot of about what the show is about, feeling stuck because of either other or being with people who don't support or champion what we are doing or are attempting to do and accomplish in our lives and do big things and think big and have a legacy, whatever your why is. And so how did you manage through those times where maybe you felt, somebody was really suppressing your creativity or your drive to do all these amazing things that you've done?
Yeah, I really never experienced that. My daughter's dad is a great guy, totally supportive. I just was too young when I committed to
Mm.
marriage. And I was just, oh, I want to go here and do this and do that. And my bad all the way around on that. And then I just really always had more dating situations that if it wasn't great for my life, I move on from. pretty easily because my daughter and my career were my priorities.
Yeah.
But then a little bit later in life, in my mid-40s, I met a man who I just thought, this is it, I'd never really felt like that, and I was really into golf, and he liked golf and provided me the opportunities to play more golf, and he was just one of those charismatic, fabulous people when you first met, and I kinda got hooked
They all
in.
are, right, Julie?
Yes.
They all are in these things we call situationships these days.
Yes. Well, and I just thought of myself as so independent and competent, and I had my own business and my own money, and, I had raised a daughter. She was already off on a Broadway show, and, everything was going great, and I just never thought I could be manipulated or hooked in to something that would be negative in any way, and like I said, it didn't start out that way. Bit by bit, it was like, he had a place in Florida. Well, then I kind of gave up my business in Ohio, and I'd stopped kind of really traveling to work. And I, was just a little bit more in his schedule and his life, which led to me not making as good of a living. And one thing led to the next, and I became a little bit more dependent. And then his behavior started to change and to be very manipulative and condescending. And then I would say, oh, that's it. I do not tolerate this. And I'd move somewhere, restart my life, new furniture, new apartment, new this, spend a
Mm,
lot of money, only for him to come back and, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you're right, but da, da, da," tell the whole story, behave beautifully for a month or 2, I'd get hooked back in. And this scenario just kept going for years, and I kept knowing better, but you just then you're a little financially dependent, and the promises are so good and the highs are so high
mm,
that I think if you're a compassionate person or you really believe in somebody or you're positive, you think, I can fix it, I can change him, I can help him. He won't do this again. He promised. You look at their good side or how they behave around other people, and it's like, oh, he's so charming.
mm.
And then not with you. And it just really took its toll on my life and my well-being and my friendships and my work, and just everything just sort of raveled apart. And I think finally by 2020, I sort of got stuck in Chicago. I went there to do a job, and my sister happens to live there. Well, the job got canceled. He was off in Florida, so we were kind of forced, apart, which was really good for me to make that break finally. Stayed in Chicago for a year, really had, a good separation, and really kind of started to get my head together about it. Did a lot of research on narcissism and narcissistic behavior and the result it takes if you're a victim of it, and on and on and on. Ended up moving back to Toledo, where I'm from, and I thought, I'm really going to write this book about my life. I've
Mm.
had some really interesting things and ups and downs, and this little downturn was something I'd not really ever experienced. And yeah, so I just took the time to write, and it was really cathartic. And I really realized what I had been through and how much it takes to recover from that and build your life back up. So yeah, I'm glad to say now I'm completely out of that grip, and I've really turned things around and just feel really confident in the fact that before I used to notice a red flag and I'd say, oh, but he looks so good in them. And now I'm realizing, yeah, no, just don't even go there. There
Yeah.
are things out of your control that you cannot fix or change. It's best to I would much rather be on my own, and having a really great positive life than be with somebody that's going to tear you down and take advantage of the situation.
Yeah. What did it take, Julie, to break away from that? Because certainly with narcissistic people, it's, they do it in a way where they find your weaknesses, from what I
Mhm.
understand, and they prey on that to get control. And before you know it, wait a second, where, like, how did this happen? So
Yeah.
how did you move out of that and just kinda, like, say, "Hey, Julie, wake up here. There's something going on."
Like I said, just writing the book and having some time away, and then really just a lot of podcasts about dealing with narcissists and how
Mm,
to flip the switch on them, and even recognizing that it's not your fault, because I thought, I'm so strong and so independent. But then, the hook always was then the financial part of it. It was like, I've got to get back to making a living, but it's hard to start over at a certain
mm,
age. Then it would be like, well, this will be let me give him one more chance because then I'd like to be in the fancy golf club and playing golf and living in a beautiful house. To start over, it's like, ooh, I'm going to go back to square one because I had gone through a lot of my money with all these moves and regrouping from the breakups. So I just finally made the decision that nobody's going to help me. My friends are sick of hearing about it. Everybody else can see the light of the truth of the way he was treating me and what was going on. And I just thought, I have to go through the pain. I have to quit running from the pain, covering it up, masking it, trying to say, I can live with this and just pick a place, get back to work, make new friends, just go through the pain
Mm.
and start over.
Wow. Yeah. So how did you come to grips with, oh, well, I'll have to let go of the fancy club or the nice house or whatever, because we hear so much of that about how women, whether you walk into a relationship with your own money and your own stuff because you had a life before, and then of course there's women that may not be in that situation and are relying on a partner
Right.
for all of that. How what would you advise a woman in terms of like getting really clear on what this means now and what this could mean for you later if you stay in a situation like that? And how do you get to the point of having to say, just rip off the band-aid and say, this is not good for me? And no, I might not be in the country club anymore, but what in the long run does that mean for me?
Right. I think, I I had always made my own living. I had a beautiful house on my own that I built from scratch, found the lot, hired the builder, paid for everything before I ever met him. I had that lifestyle on my own. By being with him, I kind of let all that go. So then I became dependent on him and was used to it. I enjoyed it, but it just made me realize this doesn't make me happy. These things, you can play golf a lot of different places with a lot of different people, and I'm much happier. I live in a cute little small apartment. I'm completely self-contained. If I could win the lottery, I don't think I would go back to the big fancy house and the upkeep and the no, this is such a simple little life, and I really enjoy the freedom of that. I'd much rather be happy, like I said, on my own than being controlled by somebody or belittled. It's just not worth it. No lifestyle, no money, no car, nothing is worth giving up caring about yourself and feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, that is so true, and I think some women just never get to that point in life, even if they are, relatively happy in their situation with, a family and running around after kids and
Mhm.
whatnot. But to to really figure out, especially after a certain point in time, certain age, what's good for you. And I always say no one can just get most people, we have other obligations, whether it's family or aging parents or whatever it might be. We can't all just get on a plane and
Right.
escape. But what are the things that we can do for ourselves that will bring us back to who we are, our
Uh,
sanity, what's good for us in the long run when you have to evaluate against all the other things that we really do have to do. I mean, we do have some of the shoulds, but what's interesting, Julie, is that you went from, yes, you had the house on your own, which I love, with me being the independent gal that I am myself, and then going through, all those different versions of yourself to where you're at this point in life. And you don't have to tell us how old you are if you want to give us a range or whatever, but to just give our listeners some perspective. But that you have found contentment in this little self-contained, as you say, bubble of yours in this little apartment. Talk about those different pivots and versions of yourself and got you to those points and what got you comfortable with those different pivots.
right. Well, I think originally, before I ever met this man, my daughter moved to New York and she was only 18 years old. So and I loved the city so much. And I thought, well, the only reason I was in the suburbs in Ohio with this big house, I was raising her and she was there. So I ended up selling the house and moving to New York City. And I
Oh,
went from a beautiful big house, my walk-in closet. square footage wise was bigger than our apartment in New York. So
Doesn't surprise me at
that's
all, but yeah,
downsizing. Yeah.
that sure is. Oh my
And
gosh.
I
I
loved
live
it.
in a closet. Yay.
I loved it. I do have to say I had a big closet and, it was kind of a
Yeah,
costume room and a catch-all for props and things. I kinda had a whole room built upstairs, this big closet thing.
I love
But
it.
I was so happy in New York and being with my daughter. Like I said, I met him. It kinda got back into the bigger house, the lake house, the Florida condo, the this and that. And I was like, "Yes, it's great. I loved it." But like I said, the downside of a relationship that wasn't supportive, I don't know, and then it just really I realized things are just so unimportant,
Mm,
I had all beautiful things and I don't I enjoy beautiful things and nice places, but it's just not the end all be all. It's your relationships, like, just time with my daughter, friends that are genuine. All the country club friends you can have in the world are great, but who's really gonna be there for you, just genuine people in your life, family, you just kinda come around to what's really important, and it's just not the stuff.
yeah. Yeah, and I think too, women in, you know, sometimes we're on our high and sometimes things happen and you have to, like I said, you have to pivot or figure it out. And there's one part in there's several parts in your book that was interesting. And I don't know if this was in reference to the relationship that you're referring to with the country club and all of that, but you say this was when you were in Chicago, and I think you were considering moving to Toledo, where you said everyone knew your name
Uh-huh.
and knew your reputation. Maybe that would be a better place to live. You had already raised Kelly, and Chicago was cold, which yes, it's
So
cold. Gets dark at 4:30, which is terrible. You missed your daughter. You missed the warm winters in Florida. You missed New York. But what you said was, my life was so scattered, and money or their lack of was becoming an issue. And again, for women being still underpaid in many respects, again, how do you find the wherewithal to not give up when you're in a situation like that?
I think I even wrote that somewhere in my book. It's like, I kind of almost wanted to give up, but I don't know how. I'm a dancer. We are like such diehards. It's like, you will push through the pain. You
You
will
dance through
do
the
anything.
pain, I know, even as an amateur, like, I sprained my ankle yesterday, but I have a competition,
Right, just
we
wrap it and let's
wrap it up.
go. Yeah. So, it was just like, it's really not an option. Plus, my daughter, I mean, she's just everything
Mm,
to me. I love her. I want to be a good example for her and I want to be around and healthy and enjoy her success in her life. So I just realized I just had to get back to the old me, which I
mm,
love to teach. I love to choreograph, and like I said, coming back to my hometown, people knew of my reputation. I taught kids here for years. They've grown up, they're adults, they're in businesses, they have kids. So I just had, I don't know, I just didn't feel anonymous here.
mm.
It was, I get an injury, I can call the doctor. It's like, "Oh, there's a 3-month waiting list." "Oh, wait, you taught my daughter how to dance." Boom. And it's like little perks like that are really important, when
Yeah,
you're kind of starting over and my career was like great. Some people could take a 10-year hiatus or whatever. But when you're a dancer,
mm,
age comes into play quite a bit.
sure.
It just does. So, and so much about show business is your connections and your relationships. And when you've kind of taken yourself out of it for quite a while, it's hard to just jump right back in there. So I thought, well, in Toledo, and there's not a lot of pressure, there isn't really a lot of show business or opportunity, but I love doing the community shows. I mean, people are so appreciative of you bringing professionalism to their program, and I think they're just really always appreciative and grateful. So that's been a real plus. So I just kind of put myself in situations where I feel really positive and
Mhm.
started teaching again and learned how to live at a different budget, just a different income level. You have to adjust.
Yep.
And like I said, kind of realized a lot of those things aren't important. So it really wasn't that crazy for me. It was like, okay, this is what, I still have friends that, I can go lovely places and go to dinners. And I spent some time with a girlfriend in a beautiful house in Florida this winter for a few weeks. And like I said, it's very nice, but I come back to my really modest place. It's just really easy upkeep and affordable. And, I can go visit other situations and,
Mhm.
it's all good.
It's not so bad.
Yeah.
So, Julie, tell me what if you have one, I'm sure you have more than one, but what is one of the most standout, most favorite dance stories that you
Stories.
have?
Oh my goodness, there's so many.
I'm sure.
I guess the first thing that's coming to my mind is we were doing, I was in the Broadway show, Second Street. Well, I was in the Los Angeles company. So we did some side gigs for charity. And there was a big benefit show and it was honoring Gene Kelly. So, we came out, we were going to do our opening number and it starts off with this big time step. And we file out on stage and I happen to be front and center. That was my spot in the lineup. And we come out and I realize I am the head table. Gene Kelly is sitting right in front of me. I mean, I'm almost dancing on his lap. It was kind of a nightclub situation set up with his table right there in the front by the stage. And the music started, and I did my first step, and I start dancing, and I mean, he's right there. And he kind of leans over and whispers at me and goes, "I know that step." And I just I'm like, "Of course you do. You're Gene Kelly, and I'm tap dancing
Oh.
right in front of you." But, he kept kind of whispering little things to me throughout the whole number and, ends in this big pose and I'm just right in front of him and he's just clapping like crazy. And it's like, I mean, my daughter's named Kelly, right? I love Gene Kelly and I grew up watching him and here I was just right there in front of him. I don't know. That was just one little thing that stood out to me just personally was something really important. But yeah, there's just so many great fun stories.
Yeah, and what a great experience. I mean, Gene Kelly of all people,
Right.
dancer of all dancers. And I think I even read that you worked with, did I see right, with Debbie Reynolds also?
Well, it is funny because one of my mom's favorite movies was Singing in the Rain, which was Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, and Debbie Reynolds.
Mhm.
Well, she also liked Bonanza, but that's a side note. She loved Michael Landon and my ex-husband worked for him.
Oh.
So, you know, it's just weird that I taught at Debbie Reynolds' studio. So Debbie was in and out all the time in Los Angeles. And then I had that experience with Gene Kelly just dancing right in front of him. And then Donald O'Connor had contacted me. I taught all professional kids in Los Angeles, and I had at Debbie Reynolds' studio, there was a big viewing window, so people would walk by and they could see in and all the kids dancing, and it was, really professional. It wasn't like a kids group. So Donald had heard of me and he needed a kid to play Little Miss Singing in the Rain. So he called me and said, "Do you have a little like a 12-year-old that could do a tap dance with me?" So I said, "Oh, sure, no worries." So I bring in, I don't know, 4 or 5 12-year-olds to do a little audition. And I had my daughter with me in tow. She was about 5 or 6 years old. And she was kind of sitting on the stool watching them dance. And Donald came over to me and he said, "Does that little girl dance? I'd really like somebody smaller and really cute like that. But I don't know if they could do it." I said, "She's my daughter. She's a great dancer. Of course she can do it."
Come
So
on.
all the 12-year-olds got issued out. Kelly tap danced a little bit for him and he hired her on the spot and he said, "Why don't you choreograph it for me because you know her skill level and this and that." So I was choreographing a number for Donald O'Connor and my 5-year-old daughter was starring in it with him. And that was actually a real big highlight too. We had a
How
wonderful time.
cool. And Kelly, she's a beautiful girl, of course, but like I said, I've seen videos that you've posted of her dancing and acting and singing. I mean, she's the triple threat as far as
Yeah.
Broadway level entertainment goes. Yeah, she's just incredible. So another one who was just, "Baby, I was born this way," right?
She literally, I mean, I was teaching in Los Angeles, and I can't remember what show or a movie. I might have been between jobs, but I was definitely teaching. and she was due on Christmas, so we had that week off, no classes, and the next week through New Year's, she was actually born on New Year's Day, and I think, when classes started back January 5th or 6th, whatever it was, I was right back in class, and, so it was just like, boom, she definitely was born dancing too. Because 'Cause I'd
Oh.
bring her to the studio with me, this little teeny baby, and yeah.
'Cause an entertainer's life, as I understand it, can be a tough one to navigate when you don't know where's the next show, and do I have to move, and when's the paycheck coming? And again, if you're a single mom or not, but it sounds like you had a lot of time as a single mom.
Her dad was very big in our lives. Even I think we separated maybe when she was 4, 5, I forget, 4 or 5 years old, but he still we live down the street from each other. I mean, he's always been a hands-on dad. He's still one of my best friends. We talk all the time. Yeah, he's a great guy. He was always very supportive. Like I said, he worked on Little House on the Prairie when she was born for Mike Landon. So, he had a good job, and yeah, he's always been in the picture helping out. And I gravitated a little bit more toward the choreography and the teaching because it was lucrative for me and
Mhm.
because I did have a daughter early on. 42nd Street, I was in that show when she was just a year old, and they went on tour, and I chose not to take the tour because I just wanted to stay in LA. And I could teach and run my kids' dance company and do side jobs that benefited me that I didn't have to take too much time away from her. So, I'd always find the balance between that.
Mm.
So, but I always had, like I said, that teaching business that was really lucrative and more grounding. So I was still dancing and being really creative. But it's like my daughter now, she primarily performs. That's her thing. So she's always on the road here, there, doing something. That would be a little bit harder if you had a child that you have to travel with all the time.
If you were on the road, yeah, yeah,
Right.
for sure. So now you're trying to figure out what's next. So what are some of the
Yeah.
options? And, what are the options for you, Julie? But how would you advise a woman who now is kind of in this season, which I guess it could start for any of us. There's women in their 40s who we've worked for over 20 years at that point, and a lot of women even in their 40s are stopping to think, is this all there is? Because that's
Right.
when I left corporate America and went on my own. I've been working for myself for almost 10 years now, but now that I'm in my mid 50s, I'm kind of reshuffling the deck all over again because some things are shifting in my industry that I work in, and thinking about what's next. And I'm sure in my 60s I'll be thinking about what's next. So what's next for you, and how do you kind of figure things out? What's worked for you, or what is working
Right.
for you?
Well, like I said, I've been in Toledo now for 4 or 5 years, and I really have enjoyed the process, the choreographing for the community theater shows, cute little apartment. I've downsized, gotten rid of so many things that I just don't need, so I'm just free and ready to go. I'm just not sure where I'm going to go. And, I can't think of, I've lived in LA, New York, Vegas, Chicago, a couple different cities in Florida. And it's like, no matter where you are, you're still there. You know what I mean? So you just have to really be authentic and happy with yourself. And I realize the lifestyle here is a little bit slower pace than what I'm adjusted to or what I really like, but also the affordability. And then it affords me to travel. I can visit my sister in Chicago. I can visit my daughter in New York. And then I don't have to do the day to day hassles that come along and expenses that come with a big city and traffic and on and on. So for me, it's worked out. I'm kind of the opposite of you that I've always worked for myself. I've always had my own business teaching. I freelance with choreography, so I take jobs if I want them or I don't have to. I've never really been in corporate America or have had to answer to anybody. I've made my own
Mm.
schedule. So I have been so blessed and so
Lucky,
lucky.
lucky lady you are. Yes.
Yes. The only thing with that is if you want to try something else or do another job, it's like they're gonna tell me when to come in? No, I'm
Mhm.
used to making my own schedule. So it is a little tricky to navigate that, even just with a part-time job. Like, I'm just so used to my freedom and kind of calling all the shots. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of an adjustment. But yeah, I don't know. I'm open to new things. I think positive. Like I said, this summer I'm just going to play a little golf. I'm gonna visit my niece is also she's a professional ballerina, and she's in the Tulsa Ballet, so I'm hoping to go out and see her in a show next month, and then my daughter's doing a show in St. Louis in June, so I'm gonna go see her there and, just kind of, live a little vicariously through their performing and, enjoy that for a little bit.
And be the proud mama.
Yes, I do that really well.
Mhm. I bet, I bet. Now, Julie, there are so many women out there who say, "I would love to write a book. I have a book in me," and I think all of us probably do.
Mhm.
Your book, oh my gosh, it's so good, and it's, it's 194 pages of Julie's life, over the years and pictures too. Oh my gosh, everybody, seriously, this girl, and these pictures, I'm holding it up here for those of you who are on YouTube watching, but I love the pictures from the past and all the versions of you. But what was your process in writing the book? Because, like I said, so many people want to write books, but just
Mhm.
getting started. So
Right.
tell us a little bit about your process, how long it took to get it published, how you published it. Tell us more.
Alright, so, I have this group of girlfriends, and, we'd always go out and, over a little glass of wine or something, I'd start telling some of my stories, and they'd just shake their head. They say, "No, that couldn't happen. That's not real. You should write a book. You should write a book." But I thought, well, they really have stayed their whole lives in Toledo. They hadn't branched out as much. So sometimes some of these stories in the show business world, it's like, oh, of course that happened. But, so our worlds were very different. So I thought, well, it's entertaining to them, but I saw a little sign at the library that said, write your life story. And it was being taught by this lady, and it was a 4-week course, no charge, sign up, come in. So I went in, and this little 94-year-old lady was teaching it. And and I happened to sit next to her, and she kept saying, I really can't see. Could you read this? So I'd read some of the papers for her. And then she'd say, no, I really couldn't hear. What did that lady say? So
Oh
I was
my
like
god.
kind of the writing assistant all of a sudden. But she was just very inspiring. She had a really interesting life story, and she was telling, but most of the people in the class were just writing this for their family members to know a little bit about family history, health history, that kind of thing. And I said, no, I really want to write this and see about having it published. I had no idea what I was doing. So I just jumped in, and my ex-husband, Kelly's dad, has written he's self-published several books. So he was my right-hand man. He'd say, just keep writing, just write, just put your feelings out there in your stories. You fix it later. So I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And I thought, I'm going to kind of go chronologically because that was easier for me to remember. In my 20s, this happened. In my 30s, this happened. So I just kind of wrote for 3 months, just writing, writing, writing. And it just kept taking shape, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved it, and he kept saying, "This is good. Here's my self-publisher's number." I called him, I figured out the title page and the cover art and this and that, and started putting it all together. And then one of the ladies at the library said, "Now who's gonna edit this for you?"
Mm.
And she said, "Your punctuation is all over the place, and, did you use spell check?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, all that technical stuff that I really did not." I mean, I've been out of school for quite a long time, let me just say. So I would say the editing process, I started doing it myself, Googling this, where does the comma go? There's so many little rules and so much more. It was so overwhelming. So I spent almost a year just with the editing. And I did have a girlfriend, she had just written her college paper, and she was so instrumental in helping me. But she was a very technical writer. And, there was semicolon for this, and I'd reword that. And finally said, no, you know what? I need it to be like me speaking. I'm a dancer. I'm not a college professor. I just want it to be me talking. So I kind of relaxed a little bit. got it as close to I as what I could get technically to have it be respectable. And yeah, published it and had a little book signing at the library, and it went really well, and put it on Amazon. And, it wasn't a make money, get rich quick kind of a scheme. I wasn't looking to be a best selling author. I just thought I have some stories to tell, and it was very cathartic. And I really enjoyed doing it. And so I'd say you just have to dive in, and it's hence the title of my book, Winging It. I just try things.
I love it, and it is. It's a beautiful book, and it feels like we're having a conversation because it is so conversational.
Mm.
Definitely easy to follow, of course, your whole story and all the things that you talk about. Even I think maybe you talk about things like body image, and you're talking about, I think, about eating habits and things like that. I mean, as a dancer, that's
Yeah.
everything, of course. So, um, we really get into the weeds of some of the trials and tribulations of this profession that most of
Mhm.
us look at as glamorous.
Well,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
there's 2 sides to every story, right?
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Julie, what as we kind of wrap up here, what are some of the other maybe sage words of wisdom that you would give to
Mm.
women, say over 45, 50, and going well beyond. I mean, look at your 90 some year old lady who was teaching a writing class. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I want to be that lady who's teaching something, even if I'm teaching like a box step to people
exactly.
to go through, all these chapters in life. But what other words of wisdom would you give a woman who's in this? What am I doing next? What do I want to do? Something doesn't feel right. I'm not into that anymore. I'm not into this. And maybe she's got 100 ideas of different things that she could pursue.
Right.
What would you advise?
I get just a couple simple, like, sayings come to mind. Actually, my daughter says this all the time, and I find it really freeing. We talked about it once, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I should write a book, and I
Mm,
should do this, and should," and I realize if you change the word should to could,
mm,
it's, like, freeing, and it's optimistic. So I could write a book. You've got that option. I should. It's like, "Ooh, I'm shameful if I don't?" I could go to the gym. It'd feel great to work out. It's better than, "Oh, I should go to the gym."
mhm.
So just in everyday life, I try to keep that kind of positive perspective and give myself options. I think you have to be really authentic and true to yourself. Um, like I was chasing after this country club lifestyle for a long time, and I realized I'm really not the country club type.
Mm,
you know, it's like once you have to know who you are and be true to that. To thine own self be true for sure. So just a couple of little things like that. I take care of myself. I think you have to be the best you can be, just emotionally or spiritually. I try to pray or read something that's inspiring every day. Mentally, even if it's just those little New York Times games, something to keep your mind sharp. Tap dancing is one of the best things to keep your mind sharp. And then physically, doing a walk, golf. Today I went to yoga class. I'm going to teach tap later. It just keeping yourself the best you can be, physically fit, emotionally strong, mentally sharp, eat healthy, um, just kind of all the basics. So you're just ready to go, even if you're not sure quite where you're going and you have a lot of options. I guess just, make lists, put it down on paper, weigh it out. And then once you decide, like, I decided I want to write that book. I was committed. I was
mm.
every day. I even turned down golf dates to right. I
Oh,
mean,
well,
that was unheard of for me. So it was like, I was just really on board with commitment, and I'm very goal oriented like that. So I guess that's the best advice. Find what you want to do and find a way to get it done. You
yeah,
could do anything you want.
yeah, and I think you just have to try things. Like last year, I felt like
Yeah.
I was just throwing a bunch of spaghetti on the wall to get clarity because I had done a
Mhm.
keynote presentation for a conference last year. I had done a webinar for an industry organization. I like recently I took a an acting class and just did a performance recently of a monologue in a scene. I had a scene partner and, where that will go, I have no idea. I do not expect to
Yeah.
be seeing myself on big stages at this point. But you just have to try different things and see how you feel about it and kind of, do it and evaluate quick so you can get to the next thing and try the next thing and find what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you don't really love anymore because, you know,
Mhm.
things lose their luster as you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's funny when I first made that definite split, from my old relationship, and I thought I really do need to reinvent myself, as they
Mm,
say, but all I'd ever done is dance, and I loved it, but, things were changing, I was getting a little bit older, and I thought, I'm gonna jump in and try some different things, and I tried bartending, and I was like, "This is not it. This is painful."
I took that class too many, many years ago, and
Oh,
I
well,
thought,
I didn't
"Nope,
take a class, I just jumped right
you
in
just
and
did it."
yeah. Um, at events, I was kind of helping out a girlfriend and,
Oh, okay.
oh, yeah, I sure I wrote a few stories about that in my book, but there were stories. Um, and then I was always trying to eat healthy and, Weight Watchers really helped me out. I
Mm,
It's a program that it worked for me, and I thought, "Well, I'll be a leader or a coach," so I dove into that. It was a lot more computer work than I had hoped for, but I
right.
loved being in the classroom and teaching the principals and doing that, so I did that for a while. I'm trying to think, yeah, I worked at a pro shop, and I thought, "No, I like to be out on the course playing, I don't wanna be in here working." So, yeah, I tried and dabbled in all these other things, and I thought, "No, I know who I am, and I know what I
Mm,
like. I like to dance. I'm good at
yeah.
that, and I like to teach people, and so that's what I still do."
Yeah, I think you like I said, you just have to try things and figure it
Yeah.
out, and some of it's very validating. Like for you, you said, "I like to dance," but you've always been a teacher too, so the Weight
Uh-huh.
Watchers gig was probably fulfilling in some ways because you were
Yes.
teaching, but not, 100% of kind of demonstrating or really
Right.
embracing who you are and what you really love to do. So yeah, I would recommend to everybody out there if you're thinking about could you do this? Could you that? Well, find the way to
Try it.
maybe do it or volunteer or whatever it might be. And you don't have to write the full book. Maybe you have a Substack. Maybe you write for Medium if
Uh-huh.
any of you are familiar with that user generated content
Right.
site. There's other ways to do it, and before you know it, you may have written enough to self-publish a book. So, and then we'll all be that 94-year-old lady who's yeah, still teaching and using our brains and hopefully relatively healthy and still making an impact because we are not built to be un unseen, unheard,
Right.
irrelevant.
Right.
I don't want any women up in age, especially feeling like they have nothing left to offer. Like you said, Julie, you're not done yet, and I love that.
No.
You lots more to go. Lots more to
Right.
go. Yeah.
Right.
And I'll be looking forward to seeing what that is and what that looks like.
Great.
Anything else, Julie, before we unhook from our time together here?
No, I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and, yeah, it's been great, and I just think it's really inspirational what you're doing and trying to
Uh,
shed some light to help people that are in this stage of life that kind of need to regroup, wanna regroup, stay active, and fit. So, yeah, congratulations on doing such a great job.
Thanks, Julie. I appreciate that. So, yes, I assume I'm not the only one out there who's looking for the next thing. And so I figure let's all do it together and let's unhook from like I said, the shoulds and get into the coulds, as you said.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
Yeah.
Julie's book again is called Winging It Every Step of the Way. Here it is here. Again, available on Amazon, Julie O'Connell. Julie, if anybody is still is has interest in what you're doing or keeping up with you, is there any way that they should stay in touch or follow you?
In the book, there is in the forward page, there is an email address if people want to get in touch with me. Or, I'm on Facebook, of course, and I have a separate page for my dance stuff that I just post on there occasionally, but it's called The Julie O'Connell Dance Experience. So not so much my personal page, but just people that might want to see some. I put some choreography clips or this and that every once in a while. So that's one way to be in touch.
Did I read somewhere that you started an entertainment travel agency at one point?
No, but I did work. We were putting together some trips for dance groups. I produced a
Okay.
competition or a dance convention, I guess you'd call it, in Chicago. And it was primarily ladies 40 plus. And
Oh,
we went and I had my daughter and a couple of other stars from the show of White Christmas and myself. We guest taught and they had a little like a wine and cheese reception. And then they had classes during the day. And then we all went to the Broadway show in the evening and they had a talk back with all the actors. So it was
oh,
just a getaway weekend for dance groups.
how fun. We might
Yeah.
have to bring that back at some point.
It's a good idea. That's probably my next step to kind of keep pursuing that.
Yeah. I would love to hear more about that. I'd be there for sure. Sign me up.
Okay. Cool.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for sharing your story and all of your wisdom and inspiration. So, thank you so much again for being here. We'll put links to your book in the
Great.
show notes, along with where to find you on Facebook for the Julie O'Connell Dance Experience. And everyone, girlfriends, thanks so much for being here today. Thanks for unhooking with me and Julie, and hope to see you again soon. And if anything got you unhooked in this episode today, please give the show a follow on Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, and give a subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, girlfriends. See you soon.
I